Houston Film Fanatics on KBRC Radio. We are back, and we are about to talk with Evan Wolfson. Now, he has been referred to as the marriage man, and also as the architect, and basically the champion of the Freedom to Marry movement. He is also the star of a new documentary called The Freedom to Marry, which you're going to want to check out. And so let's go to the phones and see what Evan has got to say. Evan Wolfson, thank you so much for joining us in the show today.
Hello.
Thank you. Hi, how are you?
I'm excellent, thanks. How are you?
I am fantastic. Thank you so much for talking with us today, Evan.
My pleasure.
Now, of course, we had the chance to check out Freedom to Marry. Excellent, excellent film.
Oh, good. Thank you.
Yeah, so moving. You know, I feel like it's a film that even if you aren't, in that position, that you still can appreciate it and can appreciate the fight and the struggle.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, it's a great film about hope.
Yeah, well, that's exactly right. And what we really hope is, and what we've seen, is the film is actually being embraced by other movements, gun control, animal rights, immigration rights, environment, who are showing it to their members and to their board and funders, not just because they may support gay people and the freedom to marry, but because it really shows you the elements of change and, as you said, the belief that you can make a difference.
Now, of course, you have been kind of a champion for the Freedom to Marry movement for quite a long time. How did you get involved with the movement? How did you get involved with saying, hey, you know what, we're going to take what we're doing here, guys. We're going to film it. We're going to make a movie.
Well, the idea to do the film, and we had thought about trying to capture the story and the lessons, but we never really fully got around to it because we were just busy doing the work. And Eddie Rosenstein, the filmmaker, is the son of close friends of my parents. So we grew up with our families knowing each other. I didn't really know Eddie because he was younger than I am. So, he looked up to me, but I didn't know who he was. And so I knew his parents very well. And he called me right after the Supreme Court announced it was going to hear the case. And he said, I've been meaning to call you for years. I've been following your work. Do you know what I do? And I said, no. And he said, well, actually, I'm a filmmaker, and I have actually quite a record. And he showed me some of the things he's doing. And he said, who's making your film? And I said, well, why don't you come in and let's talk? And 2 days later, he was filming.
Very nice. Well, I'm so glad that you guys got together there because you've definitely got something really, really, I think, important for people to see here.
Oh, thank you.
Now, one of the things that does make it so important is that, right now, again, we're in such kind of a, tumultuous political climate, if you will. I think it's important to see how far movements like this can come and, seeing how, even though the fight may take a long time, there is still, light at the end of the tunnel. What do you have to say to people that are, still fighting for other movements and things right now?
I think one of the things that Eddie captured so effectively, and that is so important, as you just rightly said, is we can go from a terrible place to a place of triumph. And yes, it's hard, and yes, it's scary, and yes, it doesn't come easily, and yes, it doesn't happen overnight. But if you believe, and if you focus on your goal, if you have a clear and good strategy, if you stick with your strategy through ups and downs, you can inspire others to join you. And you do the work, and you keep fighting, and you win. And the film shows that very dramatic, very emotional, not inevitable, but absolutely doable chance to make a difference and to improve the world, and thereby shares with people the elements of how to do that they can apply to other battles and other causes.
Well, one of the things that I liked the way that you guys put this together was you do get to see a little bit of like the opposition and kind of hear, some of their arguments and some of the things that they're, I guess their concerns, if you will. And I mean, one of the most impactful moments in the film that I thought was, when you have this mom trying to explain to this protester who's very clearly agitated, about how she has one son who is straight, one is gay, and, what makes the difference between the two. And I've seen a lot of the rallies and things. Of course, people face resistance and, from people just like this gentleman. What do you tell people, when they're, trying to stand up for, I guess, what they believe in, and how to approach and deal with people that are, basically getting in their face and screaming their opinions loudly? Yeah.
Well, there are a few things. One is that if you have a clear goal and a clear strategy, as we did well, you realize that you don't need everybody. You just need enough. So it's not about banging your head on the wall of the most hostile or the hardest. Certainly not about starting there. It's about your building blocks to get what you need, the critical mass that you need, not trying to change everybody. So when you encounter opposition, you can try to persuade people, you can try to move them, and we have a whole playbook that we developed and put to work in the Freedom to Marry campaign, many of which elements are shown in the film. But you also need to remember, for every one person that you may not be able to get, there are 5 or 10 others who haven't even been asked, and why not go for them? So that's one really important lesson, that mom didn't have to persuade the people she was fighting with on as shown in the film, but the people who watched her and listened to her talk about her values, who were watching on TV, who she was talking to when she goes home and talks to her neighbors and her family, those people are moved and are persuaded, and she becomes an engine of change for those people. And then some of the other things that the film shows, and the mom is one example of it, is the power of the personal. Everybody has a story. Everybody can be part of it, gay or non-gay, or whatever your cause is. Everybody can talk about why it matters to them, and each of us reaches some people. Nobody reaches everybody, but each of us can be effective with some people. And so it's about adding your voice, adding your story with real emotion, real authenticity, and, learning so you get informed, and you saw the mom going through training first, so that you're prepared to engage people and persuade people and help them move. And that's how we succeeded. The chief engine of change is conversation. And we were able in the Freedom to Marry campaign to develop programs and to drive a campaign and a national debate in a way that created millions of conversations that we then encouraged, millions of people to go out and have.
Definitely glad that you did. And I mean, it's definitely changed the lives of so many people out there. And of course, again, we're in Texas. And of course, there's a lot of the politicians that are currently handling things are trying their hardest to kind of overturn or get around not only the same-sex marriage decision, but as well as other LGBT issues here in Texas.
Yeah, well, that, as you know, that scene with the mom actually was in Texas.
Yeah, absolutely.
It happened, right?
Yeah, I mean, and don't worry, I spent a lot of time kind of hissing at the screen, seeing some of the figures that made an appearance in there that are still very active today. But one of the things that I liked is that I felt like, watching a movie like this, it makes you want to get out and do something. I mean, anything, whether it's calling your politicians, writing letters, whatever, but it does make you want to be active. Is that what you hope for when people watch movies like this?
Absolutely. I really hope that people will take from this story that every one of us can make a difference, and we each have an individual contribution we can make, and then by coming together in a team, in a campaign, supporting organizations, supporting a strategy, we combine our efforts and have that collective power also. Both the collective efforts, the campaign, and the individual efforts, the conversations, the different organizations people belong to, all of these combine to what it takes to achieve this kind of change. And that's a real lesson for the work we still have to do in our country, whether it's pushing back on the latest wave of attacks that we see in Texas and other places on women, on immigrants, on LGBT people, or whether it's talking about how to move forward in other parts of the world. You saw the victory we had just this week in Taiwan, where I've been working with really terrific campaigners and organizers there who were eager to take the lessons and adapt our playbook to the work of winning now our first big victory in Asia, which is extremely exciting because we just now wrapped up our 7th continent out of 7.
I think that's fantastic.
We already had the Freedom to Marry in Antarctica. We hadn't yet won in Asia, and now this week, by believing we could do it and working with terrific people and sharing these lessons, we racked up another win, and we have to keep going.
The wins are fantastic, but at any point while making this movie, and of course as you got closer and closer to the Supreme Court's decision, were you starting to, at any point, wonder, well, what do we do if it doesn't go our way?
Well, of course, we were always trying to be prepared for whatever we needed to do to keep working our strategy to our goal. And I think I do say in the film, I think it captures me saying something I said a million times, which is winning is not won, and it's not a done deal until it's done. So we knew that we were going to have to keep working our strategy even if we lost, and we were determined not to miss any opportunity to try to maximize our successes. So Freedom to Marry worked at 100% right up until and through the day we won. We never stopped. We always, even though we were feeling the momentum that we had finally succeeded in building, and clearly we're feeling very hopeful toward the end, we kept going 100%. And we were ready to keep going if we had to. And we did have some planning and some strategizing on that. But boy, it was great not to have to.
I can imagine. Does this ever end for you? Is there ever a point where you're like, all right, guys, it's time to pass the torch?
Well, in some sense, I guess I did pass the torch in that, as we had promised, when we achieved our goal and delivered on our strategy, our campaign, Freedom to Marry, shut down. I didn't try to keep it going to just find a new thing and keep plugging along, because I really believe that goals should determine strategy, and strategy should determine structure. And so right now, I feel like I stepped back from trying to be in charge and work to empower others to build a similar kind of campaign to drive the non-discrimination work in our movement alongside our partner organization. That's called Freedom for All Americans. And many of Freedom to Marry staff went to work there, and I continue to advise and try to help them, but I'm not trying to be in charge of it. And I wanted to take the opportunity to think about, so who am I when I'm not Mr. Marriage anymore? And where can I be helpful? Where can I contribute? But also, I want to learn and really think about what's the next right thing for me. I spent 32 years fighting for the freedom to marry. You only get so many 32-year chapters. So I want to pick the next one carefully. And meanwhile, I want to be helpful, and that's what I'm getting a chance to do. But of course, I am still very engaged with the marriage work and the marriage cause and the marriage engine, because I continue to believe it is the powerful engine, not the only thing we care about, but an engine that can help advance so much of what we care about. And I want to share that with other countries and continue the conversation here in the United States. Public support continues to grow, we see, because the marriage conversation continues to have its power. And Gallup poll last week surveyed and reported all-time record high for the freedom to marry. So even in the 2 years since we won, the public has seen that this is a good thing, and support continues to rise. And we can harness that support to the work of fighting for transgender people, fighting for women, fighting against so-called religious exemptions and the kinds of attacks you're seeing in Texas. All of this is the gift that keeps on giving. Gallup also reported, by the way, that we now are at near majority support amongst Republicans. We're at 47%. So the power of what we've all built and what we did continues to be ours to use.
Well, Evan, I know, myself and so many other people are so thankful for the work that you have done and that you continue to do.
Thank you.
Yeah, we need more people out there like you.
We do. We all need to be involved. And again, I have to say, it is work. It certainly is work. It's sometimes scary. It's sometimes frustrating. But it also is extraordinarily gratifying and meaningful, and people should allow themselves to believe in their own power and to enjoy the satisfaction of making a difference.
I could not agree more. Thank you so much for talking with us today.
Oh, you're very welcome.
I really appreciate it. Thank you.
Sure.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys. Thanks. Well, that wraps up our interviews today with Evan Wolfson and director Eddie Rosenstein on the new film documentary, The Freedom to Marry. Now, if you guys want to check out our full review of the movie, you can head to our blog page at KPRC Radio, keyword Houston Film Fanatics, and check it out for yourself. We've also got the trailer posted as well. So take some time today, check that out, and if you missed any of the interviews with Evan or Eddie today, we have also got those up posted there for you to hear and review. So thank you guys so much for listening today. This has been Houston Film Fanatic Radio, KPRCradio.com. And have a great day, guys. We'll catch you guys next time.